So the 4 non-selling archetypes, and this is where they come from. If you take the top 4 6 selling archetypes and you overdo them, if you overplay them and you take them way too far to their extreme, and here's the thing, there's a bit of a silver lining there because it can tend to go either way. But if you take the action archetypes to their extreme and overdo them, you are left with the non-selling archetypes. The action taker, if he, the action taker is typically, that idea of a very confident person is created in the mind of the buyer. If they overdo it, they become arrogant, and basically the idea of the jock. So the jock is someone that doesn't care about other people, cares about their own sense of self-worth, cares about their own ability to do whatever it is. In a sales role, it'd be very much, I've got this, I'm the best, stuff everyone else, I'm here to help myself. And that can actually be portrayed throughout the conversation, is the jock archetype. Be very careful of these. If any of these pop up and you've heard yourself do these before, many of you, by the way, will do the pushover. I'll get to that in a second. If you get to these and you realize that it's something you do, feel free to knock it out of your game pretty quick and watch the results when you do. If you can catch yourself doing these non-selling archetypes and knock them out, the results will skyrocket. So the desperate pleader is essentially the jester done to the extreme. So the jester is everyone's favorite friend because they're very confident, they're easygoing, they want to make everyone laugh, and they love it. They love being the center of attention but it's in a resourceful way. But the desperate pleader is someone that takes it too far and essentially says, please laugh at my joke, read in sales as, please buy my product, I need this. It comes across as, to take it to its extreme, quite pathetic, because the desperate pleader is basically there to make sales for themselves because they need it. And if they don't, they won't feel worthy. And, then the whole world will crumble. And if that happens, what am I going to do then? Please, I'm begging you to buy my program. I'm begging you. And it just doesn't work. It's just the idea of the most, you guys will know this. In sales, there's a lot of commonalities between sales and dating. Now, who is the one person that you never want to go on a date with is the desperate guy or the desperate chick. It's get away from me. There's nothing good about this. Now, what you'll start to notice is that the 4 non-selling archetypes, the aura that they display is that it's all about them and making the sale for them. The 6 selling archetype is all about other people and how they can give it to them, which is another really cool quick point for you. Just going to take another drink of water, guys. Thank you. So the pushover. The pushover is the fair player taken to its extreme. And unfortunately, what happens is when the fair player takes the idea of what's fair for me and what's fair for you and decides that what's more important is what's fair, like far too fair for the actual buyer, then you start to become the pushover. And it's the idea of, yeah, you know what, you're right. You probably can't afford this. I was stupid to ever bring it up. It was silly of me to ever think that this could be an option for you. I'm so sorry for even calling you at this time. Man, I'm a pretty bad person for even bringing this up, right? It's the pushover. It's basically if the salesperson said back to you, nah, I'm not good for that product, the pushover immediately says, oh yeah, he's right, or she's right, I'm going to back away completely, okay? Now, there are times in a sales conversation for sure where you need to know your place and realize, okay, chances are then that wasn't for them and you back away. But if you know the product is for someone and you've been talking about it for a little bit and the pushover comes in and, at the same time as the buyer actually says, no, it's not for me, then you'll lose a lot of sales. By bringing in the fair player archetype and bumping it back up to a resourceful level above the line, you'll actually be able to swing them around to the idea of, you know what, this is actually a pretty good deal for you. Take a look at it. The non-selling archetype of the pushover is very much persuaded by the buyer rather than the other way around. Trust that makes sense. Got questions flowing through here, guys. You're killing it. Cool. Frank says, don't go jock, but at the same time, know the value of what you bring. For sure, that's exactly it. Frank says, the pleader is seeking approval and clingy. Spot on. That's exactly right. Brian says, good work, Darcy. Very fluent. Surround yourself with positive people. For sure. That's it, guys. If you want to get really good at sales, because chances are, as I was describing those 6 selling archetypes, chances are you knew someone or you could ascribe someone to each of those archetypes. Definitely surround yourself with those people. Those are the people that will definitely help you create more sales moving forward. So the final non-selling archetype is the detective. The detective is the calculator gone wrong, because if you can imagine yourself in I love imagining this for some reason. It just helps me explain it. I don't like being in this situation imagining it, but I love imagining it for how I'm going to explain it to you. Is that if you're in a detective police room and they're sitting there just badgering you and being highly obtrusive, wanting to know more and more about this law that they think you've committed, you feel as though they're backing you into a corner. Now, one of the worst sales that you will ever make, and if you've ever done it, you'll know what I mean. You feel like crap after it. One of the worst sales that you will ever make is the time that you tricked or you backed someone into a corner until the point where they had to buy. If anyone's ever been to a sales training where they teach you how to do this, you should ask for your money back. But the idea that you can trick people into buying or make them feel bad into buying, there's a difference between making people feel bad so that they buy and turning up the pain so that people buy. Turning up the pain so that people buy is a very resourceful way to sell. Making people feel bad into buying is one of the worst ways to sell. And if anyone does it in the 21st century, they shouldn't refer to themselves as a salesperson. But that was my little rant, by the way. The detective basically it takes the calculator. So the calculator decides, hey, how should we move forward with this? Is that something you've thought about? The detective, on the other hand, just adds a bit of arrogance and is like, so what happens when you stuff this up then? What's the idea then if you don't buy this product tomorrow, what's going to happen for you then, hey? Or, I'm kind of wondering, I thought this product might be for you, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. You tell me. Is it for you? And the detective is like, the buyer is sitting there going, who the hell are you to really even talk to me this way? Now, here's the thing, of course, as the detective and as a salesperson trying to make the sale, we probably wouldn't talk like that. But if our tonality is along those lines, and that is where we're at in our thinking, you're damn right it'll show through in the conversation. That's how these things happen. And once you are aware of it, you knock the detective tonality out of your game, and you're only left with the calculator who cares about their buyer. Trust that rocks on for you. So Frank says first dates are interviews. Yes, spot on. I love in these comments, Frank. All right, keep moving through. So as I said, you got to use this responsibly, because now that you've got an insight into the tonalities, even just knowing essentially what they are and being aware of them, you're going to be able to close many more sales just by either knocking them out of your game, or if you just walk away from this webinar and include one of those selling archetypes in your game where you haven't before, watch the results change by approximately 1/6 of the ones you're getting already. Okay, it can be used to close virtually all sales that should be closed. The only sales that you won't close are the ones that never should have bought in the first place, and that's a good thing, because basically it's like, great, I'm qualifying around who should buy my thing and who shouldn't. Rock on, it's all good. If someone doesn't want to buy your thing, they were never meant to buy in the first place, and you'll be a more professional salesperson for not selling to them. Okay, now what it makes the tonal persuasion method so powerful is that instead of relying on words and what to say, the TPM, as we've come to refer to it as, it makes a beeline for the buying part of the prospect's brain. It makes a beeline for the part that makes the decisions really on an unconscious level and in a resourceful level as well, okay? Now, in the idea that you can enter the part of the mind that's really making the decisions, with that comes a lot of responsibility. I trust that makes sense. Now, if you believe in what you're selling and you realize that, yeah, tonal persuasion method, if I believe what I'm selling and I'm only going to use this to sell well to people that need the thing, if you can imagine just one sale that you would have made using this tonal persuasion method, then, it starts to really show you the evidence of where it could have been used and how it can work for you moving forward.